In addition to some Josh Jacobs, Saquon Barkley free agency talk, we're going to spend a lot of time on the Dak Prescott contract situation. You've probably seen some maybe outlandish numbers, maybe some propaganda from both sides put out there. I think we break down the pros and cons of this contract situation pretty well in today's video. So help us out by sharing the video to your other Cowboys friends. As it's been every year of his career, because that's what it goes along with being the Cowboys quarterback, an extension for Dak Prescott remains fairly controversial. The latest, column, I'll call it, from David Moore, the Dallas Morning News, maybe showcases the Cowboys' thoughts, given the fact there are plenty of accusations out there that David Moore is often a mouthpiece for the Joneses, specifically Steven, in the organization. Here's what David wrote Thursday morning. The question the Cowboys face isn't whether the organization wants Dak Prescott to remain their quarterback into the future. It does. The question whether the club can reconcile what it will cost to go forward with a quarterback who has been unable to lead the team past the divisional round of the playoffs, that's a more complicated discussion. To be frank, no, it's not. And I will dispute that point many, many times here. If you think Dak is the guy you want as your franchise quarterback, then you probably need to get it done now. Otherwise, you're doing the exact same mistake you made last time of letting it go far too long and losing every negotiating point when you could have saved yourself significant money previously. I'm sure you've seen those 60 million reports out there. I don't know if it's true. Maybe it is, maybe it's not. In the end, your quarterback has all the leverage because you can't tag him. And spoiler alert, second team all-pros at quarterback don't ever hit the open market. That's pretty much unheard of. The 60 million, I honestly think it's because 60 sounds sexier than 56. 56 would make Dak the highest paid quarterback, which he's technically tied for 10th now on that list. Because you can wind back the clock to anyone who's talking contract stuff around any quarterback the past 7 years. The quarterback market only goes up. It continues to rise. It is the most important position. It's not the only reason why you're going to win games or lose games, and it is still a team sport at the end. But when you have a top 10 quarterback, and we have to start the conversation there, we can't be having this Dak is actually terrible, trade him for 2 first-round picks conversation. We have to be able to start at the same grounds of he's a top 10 quarterback. And getting one of those is the hard part. We can justifiably be upset with the slow starts in the playoffs, the lack of overall team success in the postseason, not just in Dak's tenure, but this entire Cowboys franchise the past nearly 30 years now. And in the end, your quarterback has all the leverage in these negotiations. And it just kind of sounds like some of this reporting or column writing, whatever, is the Cowboys know that a little bit and are trying to angle, well, we have another card we can play, which we'll get into, and would not be a good card to play. So, before we move on here, do you want Dak Prescott as the Cowboys QB? Based on previous live polls, I'd guess this is going to be around 75% yes, but sound off. Y for yes, N for no at the pinned comment of today's video. Now, the kind of speculative angle I'm looking at here from David Moore is it says the Cowboys are considering just restructuring the Dak Prescott contract. They have void years built in. They can kick that can down the road a little bit if they want to, which they can do, although I'm not sure this is a very good idea. Dak's cap hit right now is $59.46 million. You don't want that figure that high. You're not going to be able to build the caliber of team for, I would argue, almost any quarterback, even Mahomes, who did play with a pretty high cap hit this past year, at that figure. Certainly not Dak Prescott. The restructured cap hit brings down to $37.6 million. The dead money, though, would then be $58 in 2025, so basically flipping the dead money and the cap hit this year versus next year. The problem is you have no control over keeping Dak Prescott then. And if you don't want to pay the quarterback after a second-team All-Pro season, does he want to be around at that stage? Here's what David Moore wrote. You can say the Cowboys must keep Prescott and sign him to an extension. You can land on the other side of the argument, i.e., move on from him. You can kick the can down the road for another season. Whatever stance you take, you should acknowledge this is a reasonable, responsible conversation. It's the conversation taking place right now at the Star. I do not acknowledge that as a reasonable, responsible conversation. In fact, I would argue kicking the can down the road is the least responsible thing this organization could do this offseason. You need to make your decision. You have more than enough evidence on either side of that debate to make up your mind. You have two viable options here. Option one, pay him and be aggressive. Set up a new 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever year window it is. It's not going to be 10, by the way. I think Steve might have said that once, which was ludicrous. Pay him, be aggressive, actually sign somebody in free agency, and try to win games now. Or pull the ripcord, move on, and rebuild. Both of those options are far more desirable than the Dallas Cowboys trying to pursue a path of doing nothing and going, well, we'll just get the can down the road. That's not a good path. It's not a good idea. If you want to keep Dak Prescott, you cannot let him hit NFL free agency. Because that's what happened. You have no franchise tag, and you would be in a very unique spot of having a quarterback coming off, even if it's a similar year, let's say it's a Pro Bowl caliber year, a second-team All-Pro quarterback, still in the midst of his athletic prime, by the way, hitting the open market. Good quarterbacks, even close, not good, don't hit free agency. The closest we saw was the Commanders with Kirk Cousins, and they're still looking for a competent quarterback. If they could do it all over, they would have paid Kirk the first time because they would have been a playoff team. And Dak's better than Kirk Cousins is. We will come back to the money argument. There's understandable sticker shock involved here. More on that in a second. But today's show is made possible by Game Time. Game Time is the place for last-minute tickets to whatever next event you're going to. Sporting, concerts, comedy, theater, etc. It's the fast and easy way to buy tickets for that event. You can see the view from your seat before you buy, so you know exactly what to expect when you arrive. They've also got zone deals, and good news, folks, there is a zone deal available, at least for now, as a film. We'll see how long that lasts, for an upcoming Pacers-Mavs game. On average, it saves you about 20 or 18% because Game Time picks the seat after you pick the section. That's 20% on the zone deal for the Mavs-Pacers game. They've also got flash deals, I can see there, for the Stars game. Save you some more money as well. And by the way, the Game Time guarantee means you'll always get the best price. If you find tickets in the same section and row for less, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. So use promo code CowboysChat for $20 off your first purchase. That's code COWBOYSCHAT for $20 off. Links in the comment section and the description of today's show. That's promo code CowboysChat over at GameTime.co. Now, my hot take here is the money difference shouldn't really matter in terms of what you're trying to pay Dak. If you get freaked out over the $60 million alleged number, or if you're like, I can only pay him 55, whatever, or 53 or 52. The Cowboys actually do know how to structure these deals, despite the public pie posturing this organization might sometimes take with Stephen Jones. That has been shown time and time again with the way Dak Prescott's deal has been done. You paid him $40 million per year, and he hasn't even hit that figure on a per-year basis. The percentage of the cap taken up by season, Dak's deal, what he made per year on the cap, versus the salary cap figure that year. 2020's franchise tag was 15.8%. Significant, in part because of the COVID year caused some wonkiness with the numbers. 2021, 2022, 9.4, 9.5. 2023, 11.9%. The current cap hit is 24.5. I ain't doing that. This, by the way, is based on the 242.5 projected number. That could go up a little bit. Could be even 250. And now we're talking these numbers going down a little bit more. Restructures 15.5. Extensions 13.7. The number was you can't have 12%. That was the previous high. And then Mahomes kind of shattered that and blew right by it. As long as you're under that 16 maximum number, it's very doable. Again, the difference between those 9% figures and the 13% figures, That's your punter and your backup quarterback. Seriously, like that's the difference we're talking about here. So what you should do is this. When you have the franchise, the top 10 caliber quarterback, you keep the quarterback cap hits low as possible. And then you take that dead money hit when he's gone. And then you embrace the rebuild. And if you don't think Dak's the guy to get you, even though you acknowledge he's good, he's just not good enough for you, okay, that's fine with me. I can get where you're coming from, and that's a plan. Then you take the no trade clause, say, Dak, let's work out a deal for you. We'll trade you. We'll get whatever we get back. We're going to rebuild. Cool. That's option 2. Option 1 is extend him and go try to win games right now. If you want to win games right now, that is your path. And if you want to move on, okay, I get it. You want to try something else. Okay. Doing nothing, which is kicking the can down the road, I think is a terrible, awful idea. I would rather move on. Of those 3 paths, which one would you take? E, M, or N in the comments. We'll talk free agency rumors now here at the running back spot. ESPN's Mike Tannenbaum, who 50-50 at best in some of his takes. The Cowboys have to go after Saquon Barkley in NFL free agency because you can hurt the Giants in the process. Which, by the way, are any of us worried about the Giants at all? Anyway, Tannenbaum's argument is he'd be perfect. He can catch. He can run. I think his pass protection has actually gotten better. And based on the way Tony Pollard played, I think he would improve that position for the Cowboys in 2024. You know what's startling? The numbers don't look that different, do they? You got a few more carries for Pollard, more than enough yards to justify it. More catches, not the same efficiency through the air. More touchdowns for Saquon Barkley, of course. I think it's also evidence of, hey, you need to make sure that your offensive line and run scheme operates really well. Because if you just keep handing the ball off the middle to Pollard or Barkley, is that really going to work? And I do think Barkley's going to look for a bigger deal than what Pollard had in free agency. Because there is some draft pedigree that goes along here. Knowing, of course, that Barkley missed some time, but from an efficiency standpoint, very startlingly similar numbers there. The Jonathan Taylor number is the one to monitor. $14 million. He got that last midseason. I would bet Barkley's going to try to go after that figure. I don't want to pay him that because that's a lot of money for a running back that I'd rather spend on a defensive piece, a linebacker, or an offensive lineman and building out that area and going cheaper at that spot. Help us get to 185,000 subscribers here on the Cowboys Report. We're 281 away. That's it. Help us get there before time the Combine kicks off in just a few days. Now, the other big-time running back mentioned was Josh Jacobs. ESPN listed the Cowboys as the best landing spot for Jacobs in NFL free agency. So of these 2 ESPN-created ideas for Dallas, you have to pick one. Let's say they sign a team-friendly deal somehow. Pick one to sign because they both want top of the market money. SB for Saquon Barkley or JJ for Josh Jacobs. Now here was the argument from ESPN. With the expectation Pollard does not return, the Cowboys pivot to Jacobs. He has been a volume grinder for the Raiders with low pad level to finish runs and the quickness to make defenders miss. Jacobs led the NFL in rushing in 2022. Could also be a receiving option for Dak Prescott on swings, screens, and unders. Here's my biggest concern with going after a guy like Josh Jacobs. We were all just finally disappointed by the drop-off in production from Pollard from 2022 to 2023. It was worse for Jacobs. Again, we can make the arguments about quarterback play and offensive line. Those are all very valid. I don't want to break the bank for one of these backs. In a deep free agent market, I think you can wait. I think you can find a cheaper veteran option who's not really going to, impact the cap in the same way and will be a little bit more affordable for you and still get relatively similar production in the short term, long term.